This next session is super fun. It's 10 minutes. In Berlin, we had this really loud, obnoxious music that started really loud right on the 10-minute mark, but we won't do that to you now. But we're just basically going to try and do one every 15 minutes, so 5 minutes for question period. But we won't, we'll try, as I say. So starting off, we have Jamie Gledhill. And Jamie, he's an artist and academic in East Anglia. And he's been creating these performable landscapes with TouchDesigner and apparently Unity. I used a Unity picture. But basically using real-time audio reactive terrains built in TouchDesigner and Ableton. So I won't take up any more time, Jamie. I'll let you show us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And it's a pleasure to speak tonight. I'm quite humbled because I've only really been using TouchDesigner for 6 to 9 months or something like that. So I feel like I'm kind of at the bottom end of the class here. But I have been doing creative stuff with technology for quite a long time. So perhaps something in the approach may be of use, and perhaps there may be people in the audience who might appreciate some possibly slightly easier content, who knows, yeah? But here goes anyway. So, I am an artist, a musician, an academic, and a researcher. Occasionally, I'm all of these things at the same time, but typically they tend to go in pairs. And being an academic, so being involved in teaching creative computing at Norwich University of the Arts tends to take up quite a lot of my time. I have to say that we started teaching TouchDesigner for the first time this year, and it's gone down really well. And in our graduate show, at least half of the creative computing students have produced work with TouchDesigner. So that's a real good sign. Here are a few snapshots of the kind of work I've been involved with just over the last few years. Just a few examples of some work on stage, some workshops, some kind of Kinect-based theatrical experiences. And the bottom left image here is actually my first exhibition that I did with TouchDesigner, which I was lucky enough to get shown over in Bordeaux, which I was very pleased about, which happened in March this year. So upwards and onwards, right? I'm also, as I mentioned, a musician, and I create electronic music, and I really enjoy playing that. And this little image here is from one of the festivals that I played at last year, which was great fun. And so one of the things that I am really interested in, as well as creative computing, is hardware, synthesizers, and things that you can twiddle and make noises and that kind of stuff. Spending all my time kind of writing code and non-computers a lot of the time. I really appreciate kind of a non-computer computer, if you see what I mean. So I love the tactility of these kind of units, and I've got one here tonight, the SH4D, which is the one in the bottom left-hand corner there. And yeah, for a little bit of time, I've been interested in audio visualization. This is a schematic just showing some work I did earlier a couple of years ago using p5.js, which is great fun as well. And I think I was listening to a bit of drum and bass one day, and there was some visualization that went with it that was of just a camera flying through some scenery, and I just thought, wouldn't it be cool to do that real time while you're actually playing the music? And so that kind of got me thinking, and it made me remember how much I love being outside. And so I've got a few images of landscapes that I know quite well. So this is the Lake District. I'm from the Northwest originally, you might be able to tell from my accent. So I've spent a lot of time in this area and kind of love the beauty of it. Living in East Anglia, we don't have any hills like that. But we do have these amazing formations made out of mud and water, and some really crazy patterns that you can get in those. This is a place called Salisbury in Essex. And I'm lucky enough to have been over to the west coast of Sweden a few times, where there's this really cool archipelago of quite flat rocky islands. So again, a very different kind of landscape. And of course, all these landscapes can be inspirational, and we can use these as things to try and render. Alongside that, I quite like kind of the hand-painted look. So image on the left is from a game called Talisman. It's been around for quite a long time. And then on the right-hand side, we've got some kind of hand-painted assets that might get used in a game perhaps. So that's an aesthetic I quite enjoy. And here we have a render of, so there's some of the techniques that I'm going to discuss in a short while. This is a render basically. So I'm fairly pleased with this. And so again, most of you will probably be very familiar with all of this, but here we go. So typically we can create some nice looking terrain using noise. And here we've got a noise top with some settings, which hopefully you can just about see up there, but you'll probably be familiar with the characteristics of noise that you can achieve. And here we have some different kind of noise. So using some tweaking, we can get some different characteristics. So typically the kind of technique I've been using is to combine these two, to combine two or more types of noise to make a kind of hybrid noise through various different layering techniques. So either in this case using a multiply, but using other forms of layering as well. And this is the kind of very simplified rendering network, which has been alluded to a few times before, but the idea of using a horizontal or vertical ramp and a noise input, and then basically passing those all the way through to a geo to create GPU instancing, where we've got these three different inputs for pos, height, and color, which may soon become redundant, perhaps, if the new operators have their way, but we'll see. So yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about the rendering, the colorization, if you like, a bit more of this. So typically, a ramp can be used to color kind of contoured noise. But the technique I've been investigating is to kind of band out some of the heights. So basically using a limit and then using a difference to kind of isolate different bands, so you can see what's kind of called sand and forest, different levels in the terrain, and in between is a kind of band that I can now access. And I've kind of used this process quite a few times to basically add in texture and add in various blurs and kind of ways to manipulate the final image that only get applied to certain levels of the ramp, effectively. Yes, so I've got a hardware synthesizer here, and one of the things I'm really interested in is trying to make an experience that I can just use. I can just play the synth and not really use the computer very much, and everything's kind of like pre-made. Because I find that if I'm trying to play the synth under the computer, I'm kind of like compromising my performance capabilities. I need to just kind of focus on one thing. And if the one thing can effectively control both audio and visual, then that's super cool. And that's the direction I'm kind of moving towards at the moment. So you can see here a little bit of Python. It's essentially kind of working with MIDI in signals for a particular bass track on the synthesizer, and is just kind of creating, in this case, a circle, and kind of positioning that with some degree of randomization. And as well as MIDI, using audio, so in this case using audio levels from the drums, which kind of create a kind of a clock that I can use to drive the animation with. So if the drums stop, the animation stops. Recently I moved into GLSL land, and I kind of created a shader that kind of worked pretty well, actually, and I found that optimized some of my workflows quite well. So that's something that I'm going to look into a bit more. Yeah, I'm using this kind of table, so I've got kind of scenes, if you like. At the moment, they're linked to the computer keyboard, but eventually they could be triggered at the beginning of like a 4-bar sequence or something like that. So yeah, next up, I want to kind of investigate, can I basically create a shader that will help me to manage the color and texture rather than having all these different little procedures that I'm doing. Experimenting with other kinds of noise, trying to put 3D objects in. I'm working on a relatively constrained computer at the moment, so it'd be good to have optimized it to work on a bigger and badder machine. I'm going to play something in a minute, but it's very much in sketch form, so I want to kind of get beyond that and get to something that can be sustained over a period of time. And yeah, most of all, get performing. So I just thought I need to name a couple of key references. One on the left has been very useful in terms of general approach to terrain, and one on the right really useful for the approach to shaders in terrain. So that's it. So I'm gonna play something. But I'll take it around. Yeah, go ahead. Thanks. Right, so that's in the wrong window. Let's just put that as the right window. So hopefully this will work. Yeah, okay, so here are a few bass notes. Set up a little bit. Slight delay there. Okay. It's not moving. Whoa, didn't get off to a good start there. So let's just double check. Okay, if it doesn't move, I'll just show you, because I haven't got much time left, I'll just show you quickly the scenes that I've got. So.
Are you playing forward? The timeline on?
Thank you, that might be it. Let's just do that again. Should be. I'll get back to that.